I have the privilege of welcoming you to what I believe is one of the last session of this year's Ashoka Exchange, and it's been a wonderful virtual session for me, and I hope it has been for you. So to kick this off, we were hoping just to get things going, you guys would all take a minute or two to type into the chat where you're from, your preferred pronouns, and something that you're grateful for. I know we're all really grateful that you joined us, and we'd love to just end on a high note before we get into the content. So I'll read a few of them that come in. You guys start typing away. Oh, Blake, one of our awesome presenters. She's grateful for Boston. I love that. Sunshine. I hope the rest of you have some sunshine. Oh, Missy, awesome. We got Imani from Miami. She's grateful for the chance to connect and learn in spite of the lockdown. Could not agree more. Madison from Denver. Oh my gosh, these keep coming in. This is awesome. So I hope you guys take some time to look through this. I think it's been just an amazing experience for us to realize how grateful we are to the Ashoka U team for still being able to pull the community together. Mandy, thank you, the Ashoka U community. That's awesome. So hopefully this is something you guys can all reflect on, because despite the kind of crazy times that we've been having and are in, I think there's some real positives to be grateful for. And so like I said, on behalf of all of those that are on our panel today, we're incredibly grateful for you for sharing your time with us. We're going to be spending the next hour or so talking about equipping future change makers. And as a committee, we wanted to focus specifically on why, how, and what. So why is this so important? Why is this work that we're doing so fundamental? How, what type of competencies are we helping students to build and develop? And what are the key fundamental programs and some takeaways that you may want to take back to your university and implement as you all work on equipping future change makers as well. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jay, who is our first speaker. He'll give a little background on himself, some of the amazing work he's doing up in Maine. So Jay, take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm just going to share my desktop here. Hang on for one. All right. Here we go. And can you all see that? Everyone good? All right. Thanks for the thumbs up. Let me get it into presentation mode here. And so, I want to really kick this off with, I think, a fundamental question that many of us have that's either, really present or running in the background. And that's really, what are students doing in a university? And I think this is especially poignant right now. And students are asking these questions more and more. I don't know about all of you. I imagine most of you have switched to online. We still have 7 weeks to go at College of the Atlantic, and we're teaching all online, and we're usually, what we're used to doing is face-to-face. And so students, and especially with the financial crisis going on, they're really they're asking a couple questions. One, what if they could unify their education and their interests? And they're really seeking this more than ever. And then the second one, as we all know, is what kind of world could they build if the university was a lever that enabled them to do more? And so I'm going to just briefly tell you a little bit about College of the Atlantic. We're on the coast of Maine. Really the mission of the school is to create the people to create the change. And we're a completely interdisciplinary institution, have a great blend of theory and practice, and we offer 1 degree in human ecology. And I will talk some more about that, but essentially it's a perspective that says, you cannot solve the problems of the world from a single disciplinary perspective. And you need to be more engaged in looking for new means of motivation and new perspectives to help you figure out what's going on in the world and how to solve it. Now, for this intentionally small college, we've gotten quite a bit of recognition. We've been the most sustainable college or university in the country for the last 4 years. And also the Sustainable Business Program, which I run as the Sharp McNally Chair of Green and Socially Responsible Business, has been written up or received grants from all of these institutions here. And in fact, the pieces I'm going to share with you today have really attracted global interest, and I have been doing presentations on this and how do you leverage sustainable enterprise and unify these interests in about 15 countries around the world. And as I mentioned, College Atlantic is very small. I have been working with universities that have, over 20 or 30,000 students, which is about 100 times our size, as far afield as Greenland, all the way around the world to Australia and Japan. Now, if you really get into the university and you think about this, there's often this really big divide that we have between thinking, and this is the logo for St. John's University, where students just study great books, and this idea around creation. And this is the logo for the Peter Thiel Foundation. And as many of you know, the Peter Thiel Foundation pays students to drop out of school. And really for many schools, there's this divide. And on the one side, on the thinking side, it's academic, it's core to the education, and we signify that by offering credit for it. On the other side, this is the applied, practical, oftentimes co-curricular. We don't do it for credit. It's also oftentimes one of the most engaging aspects for students, but they're doing this in spite of their education because we do not offer any credit for it. Now, the reality is everyone is somewhere on this continuum. At College of the Atlantic, we have a slightly different model where we offer students the opportunity to create for credit, take considered action. And so this is about deepening the learning experience. And when you combine these things together, the academic rigor and action, along with the in-depth learning and skill development, what you're doing is really elevating it for everybody. And the students want to go more in depth. So I'm just going to tell you in about a minute or so about a program I run called the Diana Davis Spencer Hatchery. It's a venture accelerator, and students take this for a full term's worth of credit. We're actually in the process of doing this right now virtually, but it's the only class they take. And in this venture accelerator, what the whole goal is to prototype a product and learn the fundamentals of how you would run any kind of enterprise for a nonprofit, and then have the opportunity to test it out. It is not about cranking out ventures. It's about giving people the opportunity to live the social entrepreneurial experience. And so a very typical class, we would have someone doing a biofuel company like Gourmet Butanol, next to someone doing food systems, next to a group doing advocacy. This group, Earth in Brackets, has given the student address at the climate change negotiations. Someone creating a foundation, someone else doing a business and creative economy, and another student doing a sustainable enterprise. And when you think about the experiences, so all of these students are together in the same space, creating these enterprises, seeking different solutions in different areas, and really functioning in a cross-disciplinary manner. And some of these are going to be large scalable events like Diallo Foundation. They raised $3 million as a student project to build over 24 schools in Nepal. And others will be, much smaller craft businesses. And again, we're agnostic, for-profit or nonprofit. But what's important here is people get to walk the entrepreneurial journey with support and understand, as they go through these multiple startups through their lives, understand how the process works, how you prototype, how you test. And then as a result, the students will leave the university really talking about what they learned, but also demonstrating what they did. And we found when you give students this opportunity, it's not an either or choice, but it elevates the educational experience and the commitment for all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay. I'm going to turn it over to Yanis now. And she's going to talk a little bit about her experiences, both from being a student to working at the university, and why this is so incredibly important to equipping, this work is so incredibly important to equipping future change makers.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Jay. Well, so I'm going to start. As Kelsey was saying, I was a student at my university, and now I'm as a faculty, and also, well, I have the opportunity to coordinate the UNOS Innovation Pathway Center over there. So I also define myself as a social entrepreneur because when I was a student, I started social innovation that's still working inside the university. And also, well, I study industrial designer. What I do, in the UNO Center, how do we work with students and universities to catalyze, connect, and grow their social businesses or social enterprises? So we create programs to help them to construct their own pathways on their topics and find that purpose, what they want to do in future as a professional change maker. And we connect with all the universities programs also, like not going individual work, but knowing that there is educational model. So in this educational model, we can talk about academic resources, but also formative and specialized programs for every topic they wanna go and purchase. So how do we grow? We have been working with different organizations, having students participating in different contests, having different venues, and let them also see that a change maker, they have the voice to continue imposing their purposes. And how do we do it? We do it through three things: impulse their talent to see how their talent could change the world, seeing the problems that affect them. Something that we told mostly is that the problems they see are not only global, but they are local. I'm gonna talk that later. And the other thing that we impulse is through mentorship. So the talent is going through their skills and competencies, how they visualize their own pathways through their skills, what they want to do, like if they are more creative, how they can use that skills to create something. And the other thing is what they are studying, how their competencies through their courses, through their degrees could be also like their tools for making these social businesses and enterprises bigger. So how do we divide the competencies and the skills? Is through resource tools, through their workshops, through seeing tendencies and what their hobbies are. And the skills we mostly work are the ones that Ashoka say they are leadership transformational, that is empathy, creativity, leadership, collaboration, and resilience. About the problems, I was talking about that they could be local and global, but also how through the tendencies that are right now can grow their impact and be exponential. So also that we can see is that there are problems that are global, but mostly the students that come and work their problems is because it's something they live and personal, like it affects their personal pathway, so they want to work about that. And about the tendencies, we're working through the exponentials that probably most of them talk about, is that technology is now which we are using our tools to make this exponential growth. So something we encourage from the center is to work the SDGs, but also integrating with these technologies that could be artificial intelligence, it could be blockchain, it could be any other tendency, but to see how these tendencies can make this catalyzation on the university, but also in the communities. And also in how it's very important for us to have these mentorship programs, because they give the guidance and help them create that purpose or have a very focused purpose on what they want to do, like how to use their skills, but also where to impact. And they asked me to talk a little bit how everything that I'm doing now, it also was like a reflection of what I do during I was studying. So a little bit of my whys, because I was there, I was a student that I have all these three things over the degree and during my experience in the college. So how do they help me to grow is that they help me to create this purpose like to a real thing. And in 2012, I have the opportunity to see this as an opportunity for my local communities to eradicate. You have the context of I'm from Mexico. I'm sorry I didn't say that, but the context that we were living over there is where the gangs and a lot of delictive things were happening here. So through my mentors, through my programs, I could found this social entrepreneurship over there, and then have this kind of growing being in contests, assisting to showcase changes, but mostly was the mentorship, not from them because them wasn't like very structured on that days, but having like a mentorship program with other institutions and incubation helped me grow a lot and now be where I am. And also something that I could realize better was going or working through the social development ministry. So when I graduated, I have this great opportunity to get to know better my community, my state, see real problems that I didn't have like most the opportunity to do it during college. So that experience from my social initiative and then professional background work like make me realize where I want to be and how my professional area or pathway I should be working since today to and well, now I'm back to them now as a faculty and coordinator, and also having the story of what I do over there help me or is helping me to guide other students what they want to do and how to create this purpose to impact the society. So this is my why. This is how I have been working on during 8 years since college, and having a purpose that I super define it. Like I know I'm an industrial designer. I know that is my hobby, but what I mostly love is my passion to serve others. And that's what brings me to work in education and to have like a different visualization of what a personal pathway of a change maker could be.
Thanks, Yanis. Next, we have Blake and Jenna from BU. So while they pull up their presentation, we actually had a question come in for you, Yanis, that I'm hoping you can respond to quickly. And that is, can you talk about how you help students build their changemaker skills like empathy and resiliency? Are there any specific activities, strategies, or readings that you found to be effective?
Yes, well, the first thing is to validate what they are saying. Like, I have a student that she wanted to work with families, and then I let her to discover like what kind of problems with families, and then during that pathway, when I asked her to validate what she was saying, she see that that wasn't her focus. She discovered and she realized doing this introspection, I don't know if that's the word, but going deep inside from her. We have our mentors in coaching, personal coaching and psychology. With that, she discovered that something she's passionate is about climate change. It's like different topics, and I was like, okay, you changed from this topic to this one, but why? Why you changing? Then she started to see what she was doing. And the other thing, it's the validation goes over to selling your service, selling your products. So that also makes them to see if they are resilient on the way, because if they don't sell, they kind of like fail. But we give them like that impulse to continue and don't stop the programs. I don't know if I kind of do it quickly because I don't want to take time from Blake and Jenna, but we can definitely continue talking and I'll answer also in the chat.
Excellent, thanks. Blake, Jenna, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Blake Sims St. Louis. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the Program Director of Social Innovation for Innovate at BU.
And my name is Jenna Crawford. I also use she, hers pronouns, and I am the project manager for our self-paced accelerator program and also a Master's of Divinity student at Boston University.
For our presentation, we're really going to focus on the what, a very specific program that we run. But first, I wanted to provide a little bit of context. So for those unfamiliar with Boston University, we are a very large institution. We have 17 schools and colleges, over 35,000 students. We were recently ranked number 27 on the list of most innovative schools by US News and World Report. And we are in the heart of Boston, although we have multiple campuses scattered throughout New England, covering over 170 acres. We work for Innovate at BU, which is a newer initiative that was launched at Boston University in 2017. Our mission statement is that we envision a world where all BU Terriers, that's our mascot, are equipped with innovation skills and an entrepreneurial mindset and are prepared to create meaningful impact in their careers and communities. What you see behind this, the mission statement, is actually the front of our building, which is the Build Lab. So one of the most important things we talk about and emphasize in our programs is impact. Our students want to have impact, but it means something different to each of them. And so we work with students of all kinds in our center, whether they're social entrepreneurs, creating a more traditional for-profit business, interested in launching a new community service initiative, or an arts program. We support ideas of all kinds. A little bit of history about our program is in 2014, Questrom, our business school, launched the Buzz Lab. This was a smaller innovation space, mostly serving business and engineering students. In 2016 and 2017, a number of faculty members engaged in a landscape analysis that helped us benchmark our university compared to others in the space, and also conducted a number of student interviews to better understand the needs of our students around innovation and entrepreneurship. This has created the foundation of our work, and I've hyperlinked the actual report at the end of our slides if you'd like to read more. After that report, our president agreed to invest $20 million over a 10-year period. And in the fall of 2017, our full-time staff of 7 were hired. In February of 2018, the Build Lab, our Student Innovation Center, opened, which is the physical home for students to come and work on their ideas. And in fall of 2018, we launched the Innovation Pathway, which is really the program we're going to spend the rest of our presentation time describing. When that first opened, it was available for ventures, and we had over 100 teams participate. And to encourage more diverse ideas, in fall of 2019, we've added the project track, which is really where Jenna and I focus a lot of our time. And to date, we have 131 student teams registered as ventures and 49 as projects. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jenna to tell you more about the Innovation Pathway.
Thanks, Blake. So the Innovation Pathway, as Blake kind of alluded to, is our self-paced accelerator program. It's open to all BU students to help them transform their ideas into impact. And it's funded by one of our alumni named Cynthia Cohen. This program engages over 250 students from all 17 schools and colleges across our university. And as Blake mentioned, the Innovation Pathway has sort of since its founding always supported ventures, which we define on the slide as an idea supported by a sustainable and scalable business model. And this includes any kind of for-profit or nonprofit business. And this year, to include more diverse student ideas, we launched the project track, and we'll define a project as an action-oriented idea aimed at creating positive impact in our campus community and beyond. And this includes students working on policies and advocacy, students organizing an event or a conference, a media campaign, or doing any kind of creative content. We always hear from our students that they appreciate flexible accountability, which is why we've made the Innovation Pathway completely self-paced. Students and teams actually can join the pathway at any time during the school year. And some of the benefits that we love to tell our students of this program are the community of innovators and mentors. They will have access to additional resources and connections across our campus and in the greater Boston community, and up to $3,000 in progress funding. To tell you a little bit more about each stage that's pictured on the slide, our first stage, Get Inspired, is all about validating that you're working on a problem that needs solving, and all teams start in this stage. We highly recommend that students use Daniela Pappy-Thornton's Impact Gap Canvas to conduct research. And at this point, we want students to actually really deeply understand the problem that they're solving, the people who are affected by it on the ground, and how they're implicated, how the student themselves are implicated in that problem. When teams are ready to move to the walk stage, we hold a peer-led informal roundtable conversation about the research they've conducted during this stage. And at this point, teams will commit to either developing a venture idea or a project idea. Walk is all about validating that the venture or project idea is desirable, feasible, viable, and equitable. And we recommend ventures begin to engage a lean canvas tool and require projects to complete a project proposal. And if you're interested in seeing what these two templates look like, we're happy to share them out after the presentation today. And when ready, students will prepare formal presentations of these two tools in order to progress to later stages. Our third stage run is about getting ready to launch your idea. It's when students receive their first seed grant, and for projects, the focus is on successfully executing their idea at this point, because it's more of a one-time project. And finally, FLY is about getting ready to strategically scale the idea. So project teams at this point will reflect on their work and submit a final action report in this stage. And if you're interested in learning more about each stage, you can see our one-pager, which is linked at the very end of our slides and is also on our website at Innovate.FBU. As we've mentioned, this program supports ideas of all kinds and helps us achieve our mission of preparing all BU students with innovation skills and an entrepreneurial mindset. The top two panels you'll see here are examples of student projects, and the bottom two of student ventures. To start with products for menstrual security on the top left, we worked with students who are involved in student government as they engaged campus-wide stakeholders and drafted a recommendation and implementation plan to pilot free menstrual products across our campus. And when our campus is actually open, BU facilities are piloting these recommendations. The Global Impact Challenge is another project. They were a team of graduate students at the School of Public Health who used funding and mentorship from Innovate.BU to host a health and human rights hackathon that engaged over 40 students, and many of them were first-timers to the Build Lab. On the bottom left, Boston After School Music were folks from the College of Fine Arts. They piloted an after-school music program for elementary school students in Boston. They were a nonprofit finalist in our 2018-2019 New Venture competition. And finally, Pangisimo is a team of engineering students who designed a new kind of modular Bluetooth speaker. They used our campus resources, our summer accelerator, the New Venture competition, and the innovation pathway to launch their business. And to date, they've actually recently received over $65,000 in a recent Kickstarter campaign. So these are just 4 examples of the hundreds of students teams that we work with. And as we've been saying, through this work, our students develop innovation skills and an entrepreneurial mindset. So they collaborate with one another, develop sustainable funding models, deliver multiple presentations throughout the 4 stages, and learn how to effectively communicate their ideas to others, as just a couple of examples. We hear from our students and alumni that there is a lot of learning and personal development that they take with them beyond the innovation pathway. And at this point, I'll turn it back over to Blake with some final resources.
Thank you, Jenna. So the innovation pathway is kind of our key signature program that we're really trying to funnel students into because we have such a rigorous process for them to go through. But it's not the only thing we offer. We have workshops, we do a lot of coaching and office hours, opportunities for students to get feedback through open mic nights, and then a number of competitions and campus-wide events that we host throughout the year. And lastly, I just want to reference some of the resources that we've linked. The Innovate.BU report, which I mentioned at the beginning, which laid the foundation for the initiative across our campus. We've linked our website where there's a lot more information, a one-pager we use with students to describe the 4 stages, and lastly, our annual report from last year, which highlights all of the programs we've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Blake and Jenna. Our next presenter is going to be Gabriel. While he pulls up his presentation, we had a quick question for you two that I'm hoping you can answer from Sandra. And her question was, how many hours is the self-paced innovation pathway program?
So we get this question a lot from students, and because it is at their own pace, it really depends. So sometimes we have students who come to us in the Get Inspired stage that don't have an idea yet, and they may spend I mean, this is a months-long, years-long program. There's no rush for students to get through. We know each of the stages takes time. So if students are brand new, it might take a series of months before they move into the next stage. If a team's been working without our support independently, they can apply and start in the Get Inspired stage, and after they go through that peer feedback, they could move forward faster if they've demonstrated some of the key aspects that we require, where they've validated and can demonstrate how they have moved their idea forward.
Great, thanks. I'm sure we'll be talking about that more later on in our conversation. But for right now, we'll turn it over to Gabriel. He's going to be our final presenter, and then we'll do some breakouts and end with Q&A. So Gabriel, take it away.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Gabriel Cardoso. I'm from Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. One moment. Brasilia is internationally known by its beautiful architecture because it's the political center of Brazil. In the heart of Brazil is UDF, our institution, or UDF University Center. UDF is one of the most traditional institutions of Brasilia. It's a private institution, now is almost 53 years and has almost 15,000 students. UDF offer to our community almost 40 undergraduate programs, and in this context, UDF is in the center of Brasilia. Around Brasilia, we have what we call administrative regions. There is a lot of cities that are having social issues, social challenges, and social problems to face. Our students usually come from these regions to study in the center of Brazil, and they face daily a lot of social difficulties, social problems in their regions. So because of that, these regions, as Brazil as a whole, needs change makers. And we choose one of our programs to explore today. That is the program called UDF Entrepreneurship Pathway, because we strongly believe that every undergraduate student can be a change maker. But unfortunately, we know that some academic culture do not stimulate this mindset sufficiently. Now we are implementing this transdisciplinary program that aims to develop 15 entrepreneurial competencies throughout 8 proficiency levels. We believe that our regular curriculum, our university ecosystem, and this new program might equip our undergraduate students to be a real positive change makers in their regions. The name of the program is Trilha Empreendedora do DF, or UDF Entrepreneurship Pathway. This was the why, and now the how. The UDF Entrepreneurship Pathway is a blended tool that links learning experiences led by our faculty to our undergraduate students' necessities. On one side, we have our students using a gamified platform to self-assess themselves, considering their personal interests, their professional aims, and their current situation. And after this self-assessment, after this self-assessment, we have the other hand of the platform. Teachers plan learning experience that aim to approach not only the regular curriculum, but one or more of those 15 competencies. The platform will match learning experience offered by our faculty and students' necessities through an interactive and gamified model. Here we can see quickly the teacher experience inside the platform. So teacher entering the platform, see the steps to start and all the learning experiences inside the platform, and the teacher can insert all the informations, logistical informations and pedagogical informations about the learning experiences, the date, the hour, and after all this planning, they choose a competence that they will explore in this learning experience. And now we can see the student experience on the other hand. So the student enter in the platform as well, see the steps, choose a competence field, a competence to develop, self-assess, considering a lot of learning outcomes. And when disagree with some of those learning outcomes, the platform will show to the student learning experiences to explore. And why it is a blended experience? Because we have a game board to explore with our students. And our teachers use this game board to show all the competencies, the 8 levels of proficiency, all the learning outcomes and the concepts of the entrepreneurship pathway. And of course, we have some things to stimulate the engagement, the connection, and the relationship between faculty and students. Here we can see the first workshop to prepare teachers to adopt the UDF entrepreneurship pathway that was held on January 2020. And now about the what, UDF entrepreneurship pathway, to be so titled, is based on 5 pillars. And the 15 entrepreneurial competences, as I told before, the T-based professional or T-based knowledge, the authentic learning theory, the self-assessment based on predefined learning outcomes, and all of that, as I told as well, inside a gamified platform. And what are those competencies? So those competencies are divided into 3 fields. So we have the green that represents the field interaction. So we have 5 competencies here. We have the orange field that represents the resources. We have 5 competencies here. And we have the blue field that has other 5 competencies. These 3 fields represents our broad concept of entrepreneur. That is a change maker. Entrepreneur is who is take action, mobilizing resources, developing ideas and opportunities to create positive change in society. So we believe with this tool, we can create change makers for our regions. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. So now, just so everyone's aware, Beta's going to drop us into breakout groups. So because as a panel and a group, we wanted to be able to have an opportunity to learn from you all as well. So we're going to have about 10 minutes to connect in small groups where you guys will have a chance to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit more about your why and why you think this work is so important, the how and what you're doing at your university, and what competencies you guys are focusing on. And then after 10 minutes, we'll come back together for a quick Q&A based on things that either came up in your small groups or other questions that you've had that you did not have a chance to ask. Productive and fruitful. I know our group was able to share quite a bit of information back and forth, and I found that really helpful to learn new things. We have about 10 or any of our panelists or anything they want to share and throw out to the rest of the group to answer. We welcome you to do it at this time. You can either type something in the chat or unmute your mic and ask your question.
Something that came up in our conversation was around connections to the community. And so I'd be curious to hear, we could maybe each of the panelists talk about how they engage their local community in some of the programs, perhaps. I know from BU's perspective, every faculty member seems to have their own personal connections with organizations in Boston, and there's no one consolidating source. And so we find that dozens of faculty and groups of students are all working with Boston Public Schools in kind of an ad hoc manner. And it's been something that we've been talking about. How might we create more strategic partnerships and leverage staff and faculty from around the campus to have a little bit more focus on some specific partners. But being so large, it's hard to kind of manage all of the community engagement that we have.
And I think for us up here, it's very similar. You know, the projects that we're doing both locally and internationally are really leveraged by individual relationships. I think one, if I can change it, if I can move the topic slightly to the left or right, one of the things that came up in our discussion was, you know, how do you think about this? Because all of our schools are different resources, different locations, and I found there's a couple of universals if you're trying to push these things forward. And really there's three things to be considering: the context that you operate in, what's your historical context, what is the school good at, what kind of programming do you run, what resources do you have, either physical or monetary or the human capital, and then what are your interests of your faculty, which relates to all this community piece. And how do you get that that elbow room to try and experiment with some of these things. And so those I've found have been key when folks are trying to implement this, you know, in many different places around the world.
Thanks, Jay. I saw a lot of nodding heads, so I think a lot of people agree with you and kind of your takeaways and observations and just the themes that you were able to tease out from, I think, both your longevity in this space as well as just this small discussion. If there's any more questions, please type them in. I know there was a lot of interest in BU's innovation pathways, and so those programs, the one pager and calendar, have been linked in the chat if anyone is interested in accessing those or bookmarking them for a later date to peruse more. Definitely check that out. And let's see, Jenna and Blake said, if you'd like to see more specific templates for the walk stage, please reach out to Jenna, email her. She'd be happy to talk about it more. That's an awesome resource for everyone. Let me know if there's any more questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to one more to our panelists. And I'm just curious, with everything going on with your university's response to COVID, how you think or why you think it's even more important now than ever before that we really think about empowering a future generation of change makers, and how you plan on going about doing that right now and then moving forward.
So, I mean, I'm willing to jump in. I think I think students are demanding it now more than ever, and they're leading the universities. And they're saying, you know, in the midst of a health crisis and a financial crisis, my education needs to be more worthwhile to me than ever before. And I want to take the tools that I learn and integrate them into my life and use the university as a place, as a launch pad, or as a place to gain as many experiences as I can that are relevant to me, and use that to dive deeper and gain greater commitment to my education. And we see this now with students being food insecure, holding down second jobs. Like we have to be more relevant than ever. And so for me, it's doubling down on all of these kinds of things that everyone is talking about.
I am also happy to jump in too, to say that I think throughout this conference, I've heard from folks again and again, and in the keynote earlier today, you know, the pandemic has exacerbated inequalities that have always been present. It's made them aware, made folks who sort of maybe weren't aware of certain ones more aware. And I'd also say, so it's been interesting because we've been meeting with students who had never come to Innovate at BU, and now that they feel like there's a sort of critical need and that they can help out, have been wanting to get on our innovation pathway, for instance, and figure out ways to help. And I've just noticed that it's also exacerbated a couple of things within our way of relating with students. And so for some students, this is a time that they're like, I have these specific skills and passions, and I want to use them to meet this specific need of the pandemic. And I think that's been amazing, and like sort of resourcing those students in the best way we can. And I also know that there are other students who are feeling like they just need some permission to change their sort of like strategy and their pace of what they had been doing with their startup beforehand, and sort of what kind of resources do we have on like founder burnout and things like that that are also becoming more exacerbated for some of our students throughout this time. So, you know, all the changes that come with transitioning to mostly working from home or being part of a community that's been really highly affected, and giving one another permission to not be okay too. So I think that has been something in the back of my mind, are like, what are our resources that, and the ways that we're supporting our students, you know, that can be helpful when all of these different realities hit and when students respond really, really differently to them. Yeah.
I'm gonna jump now. Something that we have been practicing with students that are also already in the programs is to start visualizing more their work, like using social media, and also encouraging to be inspiring for the audience. So we ask them to make short videos of what they are doing during their homes and how they are applying their skills of being a change maker. And for those that are already in bigger steps, or that they are already like having the services or selling things, how they change their models to be more like more, I forget the word in English, but how they can use that skill they have of technology skills principally to don't stop their work. And other people needed to change their personalized follow-up with their communities, making videos, making contact with them through social media, how they can also give like this personal motivation for the communities. So that helps us a lot to continue our work on campus.
We realized that some of our teachers are developing learning experiences to face the crisis. So, for example, I saw a teacher that created a learning experience for their health students, record some educational videos to orient, to guide some low-income groups here in Brasilia. And on the other hand, we see our students, because this tool is just-in-time learning tool, not a just-in-case learning model. So we can observe some students changing the self-assessment for other group of competencies. For example, previously we saw a lot of students self-assessing themselves regarding vision. And now we can see a lot of self-assessment in creativity. So we are observing this movement. And about our whole college, our whole university center, our dean are mobilizing our community to direct all of our efforts to face this international crisis.
Thanks. Thank you. We're at time, and I do want to be respectful of that. So we started with a moment of gratitude, and I want to end with a moment of gratitude for all of you for joining us, sharing your thoughts, and being part of this community and learning alongside us. I think we all learned a lot from you. If you have questions about a program that someone mentioned or want to learn more, I would encourage you to reach out to them directly. I think all of our panelists would be more than happy to share some insights and brass tacks with you. And if you're interested in connecting more, I want to encourage you to join the happy hour, the virtual happy hour that Ashoka, you set up after this. So I hope to see some of you guys there as well. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully at the next one.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Thank you,
Thank
Kelsey.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Great to connect.